I'm Marco, as Terry said, and lead level designer. Um, I'm pretty much responsible for bringing the level together for you lot to actually play in. Otherwise, the game would just be a pile of assets, basically. Um, just a few disclaimers. This is kind of the first time we've shown off the level in the editor live on Twitch. So if there's any hiccups or anything, if the editor crashes, I'm sorry. It does happen. It's quite normal. Another thing is I'm running the editor on medium config spec, and hopefully that all goes well with that. It does seem a bit, it's fine.
Yeah, I will mention that Marco is the lead level designer. We have another level designer, Chris, that helps out
Yeah,
immensely as well. And so some of the areas on the map Chris made, some of the areas on the map Marco made.
yeah.
And
I was
so
gonna mention him.
okay, perfect. Yep. And
Yeah,
Chris is in chat as well. He's that Chris B, aka Alfie, in chat. So he's the
yeah.
other level designer.
Chris is responsible for one of the newer towns, Pinecrest, and he also did Salton as well, and some other little areas like the drive-in cinema and stuff like that. But anyway, I'm just gonna get straight into it. Let's make it a bit brighter, I think. So, what's so great about CryEngine? I have complete full control over lighting and everything. So we'll just make it brighter so everybody can see. And I'm going to put on my vision, which is the helpers. So this is running on the engine as a service CryEngine, and this is probably you recognize it as the military base which I made. And I'm just going to go through some of the things that are used to like construct an area like this, and then eventually, once I've gone through all the little things, I'm going to try and show you some live demoing on how I actually did it. And yeah, we'll try to create like a little street or something.
Okay.
Um,
Marco, they're saying your mic is a little low. Is there a way you can boost it?
Let me just bring it closer to my face. Is that better?
Oh, oh, they're saying I'm loud. Let me turn mine down. Maybe that's the problem then.
Maybe you're loud. Is that okay,
Yeah.
guys?
So let me just quickly do a disclaimer for the people that don't know, and I'll move my mic a little bit farther. For the people that don't know, we don't have a central office. We don't work together in the same building, or we're not in the same room when we're doing these type of chats and discussions.
Yeah.
And so Marco's at his house. Where do you live, Marco?
Switzerland.
Switzerland. Okay. And I live in Utah, in the United States. And so because of that, it's hard for us a lot of times to get things synchronized and working properly and everything. So we apologize for that. We will try to adjust stuff so it's a better experience for you guys. But because of our team makeup and dynamic, it is a little bit challenging at times, and we apologize.
Okay, that's great. Anyway, so where was I? Yeah, I'm just going to show you some of the things that make up an area in the map. So yeah, we're at the military base right now. Um, some of the features are all, no, all the features of CryEngine are listed here, which allows me to do all sorts of different things, like morphing terrain, building roads, placing houses, and all sorts. Um, this is quite an improv. Like I'm kind of doing this as I go along, so you know things will be a bit hairy. Let's see how it goes anyway. Um, so yeah.
Well, let me ask you a couple of questions,
Yeah, go
Marco,
for
that
it.
people might be interested in. So, when you're designing an area like, sorry, I'm going to try not to talk so loud. When you're designing an area like the military base, what's kind of your general flow? What I mean, how do you go about creating that area? How do you design it? How do you get the general idea? Those type of things.
Well, what I do is basically I'll gather a lot of different reference images and things like if I need a new model or something, such as this military tent, for an example, I'd find some various different types of military tents. I've got a few examples from like basically just from Google, and then I'd pass this on to our modelers and make a list for them on our tracker for jobs and bugs and things. And a few weeks later, someone will build it for me and make it. Um, with all the buildings and everything, we use something called a prefab system, and I think this word has been floated around quite a lot when we do Twitch streams talking about how we build houses and things. Uh, this is a feature in CryEngine which allows us to basically get an empty building like the tent. So if I don't know if I can find the tent in here. So we search military tents, and it's built up of all different types of. So there's the outside of it. And what we'll do is we'll gather all these different objects together, such as say this is one that's completed, so like all the beds, all the floor, all the debris and everything, and then we'll combine that into something called a prefab, and that will come up in our prefab list, and that's what we use to place in the level. Which the benefits of doing that is that if we have one house and we want to adjust a spawner, or there's a problem with it, or we have to move a bed or something, everything with the same prefab will get updated globally. So it's a very powerful tool for us to do and use basically. Um, and there's all sorts of other different features that CryEngine lets us use, but I'm gonna jump over to an empty space on the map and try and create something for you like live, so you get a better understanding. You can see it a bit more visually because right now I don't really want to touch the military base and move a bunch of objects
Let me
about. So
ask you something. Oh, I
I'm going to
turned my
zoom
mic.
out here
Okay, I turned down my mic a little bit, so I'm hoping it
on
sounds better.
some of the map.
Somebody was asking
As you can
about.
see, the map is what we got completed so far is fairly huge.
Yeah.
So let's go into this empty space, and I'm going to show you how I would create a street essentially, and the tools that I use in CryEngine. So this is the road tool. This is what we use to build all our different streets and all sorts, and it's a very powerful tool. I can literally build roads for miles basically, and change the width. It's looking like a good street already. And then I'll snatch the texture from here, plonk it on.
Okay. I adjust my microphone. Can you hear me now, Marco?
Sorry, Terry, did you say
Can you
something?
hear me now? I guess not.
Oh, he's being quite quiet. Anyway, so yeah, this
Is
is
that better?
yeah, that's extremely loud now. Sorry, I
Okay.
hide my volume then. Jump me. It made me
Sorry.
scared
I,
for a
I'm
second.
I'm making like little trivial changes, and it's like making massive changes in volume level.
Yeah.
Is that any better?
Yeah, that's fine. That's perfect.
Okay. I apologize, guys. Like I said, it's hard for us to get volume levels coordinated over Skype, but somebody earlier was asking about terrain. How do you go about making the terrain?
The terrain. Right now we have a height map based on it's based on a real world place. In fact, it's based on an island called Orca Island in Washington State, actually. Um, but for terrain, I can modify it quite easily. So if I need to like raise a mountain or make a hill, you can use the terrain tool here. We can modify. We can literally raise and lower the land. So it gives you like these are fairly simple tools, are very intuitive. So if I was to build a hill, let's make it a bit higher. There we go. And that's a hill in the map.
Okay. Now, what about the actual painting of the terrain color?
The paint and the terrain color we have a bunch of textures that are already set up. We've set up a bunch of them. Uh, well, our artists make the textures, make the materials for terrain, and they have this tool called Layer Painter, basically, and we use that to paint the terrain. Now I'll show you some examples. Like if I was to do a forest, I'll probably use forest soil, which is my favorite for using in forests. literally just paint it on the ground like so. And then I usually blend that with other textures as well, such
Yeah,
as,
as people on the stream can see, those are all the different types of terrain we can have on the ground, the different looks. And I think we're around 42 different ones on the ground. And a lot of games, even high-end games, don't get close to 42. A lot of them are staying around 15 or 16. And so we do have a lot of variation in the look of the actual terrain underneath of everything.
yeah, made some mud puddles. Yeah, and what's also great about this, I've also set this up to use our what we call a procedural vegetation system, and it's a great feature in CryEngine that we use for most of our ground cover. Because if we had the whole world with grass on it, there'd be millions and millions of different instances for grass. So we use something called procedural, which loads it all as it generates it and loads it all randomly as you go through. So this is also in the layer painter section. So if I wanted to make long grass, I have a setup that I made called long grass procedural, and this allows me to paint grass. So if I want to make a field, that is how I do it. And there's all sorts of different ones that I've set up. So there's flowers, there's also dry grass. So I've got some dry grass. And you can see that we're already making something that looks fairly decent. I wouldn't call it brilliant just yet.
Right.
I've also got one that's a forest one, which is a really cool one. So if I wanted to do some forest ground,
Yeah. So essentially what's happening here is as you play the game, you'll see the grass pop in, and there's been a lot of discussions about the view distance for the grass because right now it's pretty obvious when it pops in. And this is why it's popping in is because it's procedurally placed, which means as your player is moving around, a lot of the grass and small vegetation only exists right around your player essentially.
yeah,
And so that's why you get this pop in effect
yeah,
is because it's adding in more as you move around on the map. And we'll adjust that over time as well. But this makes it a lot easier. So as you're going through painting the different terrain levels, then obviously Marco and Chris, they don't have to go in and add every little individual piece of vegetation in the whole world, which would take an incredible amount of time.
yeah, exactly. But there are some larger pieces of vegetation. I'm going to show you this while I'm talking about vegetation. There are some larger pieces that we don't use as procedural. They use as instances, and they're mainly just trees, bushes, and pretty much anything. So I've set up a bunch of categories on the right-hand side here. So I've got a tree category, and you can see the amount of different types of trees that we have in the game. Some of my favorites, I like the eastern hemlock. They're really nice trees. So I can just build up a forest very quickly. So let's have a few of these. Let me just change that. Let's have a few of these. Let's switch it up a bit. Maybe we'll put some white firs. Let's put some medium ones. I don't want to make this too large of a forest. Uh,
Yeah, so essentially what the level designers would do, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marco, is generally the small vegetation is just based on the terrain type, whether it's the forest or the dirt or the mud or whatever. And then all of the larger vegetation, like the larger bushes and the trees, all those get hand placed on the map, so we can get very precise placement on all those.
yeah, exactly. It's for the smaller ones. It's mainly procedural, but there are some special cases where we actually use, because I've still got them in this categories, like ground rocks, especially like ground leaves as well. So if I wanted to put leaves on the ground, they're all hand placed as well. So like in the towns, you see all the leaves on the ground. They're all hand placed. They're not procedural. We're already making up a nice little forest. Yeah. So with CryEngine, it's a very powerful tool to use as like the vegetation system, and you can see how many trees there are on the map. You can see these numbers right next to each tree that I'm selecting. So there's 7,000 of these ones. There's like 2,000 of those ones, and so on. So there's a hefty amount that the engine deals with, which is really nice for us because it pretty much gives us like, I don't know, unlimited possibilities basically on and how dense we can make our forests, our vegetation system, everything.
Yeah, one of the things people ask quite often is, why we picked CryEngine, and the reason we really love CryEngine is the amount of detail we can get in the world, and trying to do the, if you compare our game to other games out there, I'm sure a lot of people on the stream have played other games as well, and you just compare the amount of detail we have in houses and in the streets and in some of the forests. It's vastly more dense and just a lot more detail in our world than you'll see in any other games. And that's why we went with CryEngine, is because we struggle now and then. We do have to be very smart and try to optimize stuff, and we're constantly optimizing as we go along. But it can handle an incredible amount of detail compared to some of the other game engines out there right now. And it's all real time as you're seeing. As soon as he places a tree, you can see it. The lighting works, the shading works.
Yeah.
It's just very slick.
Best thing is I can jump straight in if it loads. There we go. See, I got my player character and I've just built this little forest. I know it's not the best forest in the game, but it'll do for the live stream. And I'm already walking through it and testing it. That's probably one of the best things about using an engine like this is that we can literally just test it on the fly, and then I can see if there's any oddities or if I can get stuck in any places pretty easily if I just literally just jumping in the editor and just running around.
Yeah, it also has a lot of small details, and I keep pointing these out on the stream because I think they're awesome. And one of those is, the wind that bends the trees, the wind moves the grass. You can see all that stuff moving as well.
It's in the player
And
moving the
yeah, and if you crouch and like move through the vegetation, a lot of the vegetation will move with the player, so you can see all the vegetation bending and moving away from the player. The vehicles will do the same thing. If you watch a vehicle when it goes through a lot of the vegetation, the vehicle actually moves the vegetation, and all those little details are just really neat and fun to work with from a player perspective.
yeah
And they do add gameplay to the game because if you're sneaking through the bushes, other players can see the bushes move, and so they'll know you're there even if they can't see you because the vegetation will actually move. And so some of that stuff is just really slick to work with in CryEngine.
yeah exactly. I like these bushes because these are the ones that move around a lot. But yeah, so we've just created like a little forest, which is nice. It's not too bad, but um, I wanted to show you some houses. So, like I said before, all our houses, I say the majority of them anyway, in our buildings are made into prefabs. So, like I said, they could be edited. They don't even need to be edited in the level. They could be edited on our asset level and put together there, and then brought into here as one complete object, basically. So I have many categories that we've. It's kind of unorganized. I'm sorry, but I know where everything is. But so these are some of the houses that we've got. Let me think. Which one shall I show? So here we go. Last house single story. That'll do. So I'll literally just drag it out. This is something that we made earlier, and this is great for me as a level designer, is that we already have all the houses already furnished using this tool. So if I wanted to build up a town very quickly, I can literally just drag in a whole complete building, fully furnished, with spawners in it for gameplay and everything. I Another disclaimer: I've disabled the spawn cones so you can't. Well, actually, I haven't. I can see them there actually. Let me do that if it works. I did disable them.
It won't probably work if you drag new stuff in.
Yeah, I'm guessing it doesn't work when I drag new stuff in. I'll disable them
Yeah,
now.
anyway.
Because I didn't want to give away some spawn locations for things.
So, can you talk a little bit about what the advantages of the prefabs are and what the disadvantages of them are, just
Uh,
so people are kind of aware?
the main advantages are that, like I said, like if we wanted to put a weapon spawn into one specific house, and there's probably about five different copies of that house over the world, I don't have to go into every individual house and place those spawners. Or if I want to change this lamp, for example, in this prefab, I could open up the prefab. Let me see. Yeah, I can open up the prefab and select this lamp and change it for a different lamp, and then it will update on on a global scale on all the houses that are the same to a different lamp. So that's just a trivial example, basically. Um, but yeah, the main advantages is that it's a complete, fully furnished, fully playable house that's not empty that we can just dump in pretty quickly. And that's probably some of the reasons why you probably see one or two houses or a few houses the same. Like when I create prefabs, I usually try to take the same house and then switch up the furniture a bit, move the spawners around. Let me close that one if it loads. Yeah, when working with prefabs in the editor, it sometimes clogs up a little bit, but just give it a second.
Yeah, so one of the disadvantages of prefabs is you do see repetition in the game world,
Yeah,
and people have played the game. You'll see the exact same house a few different times in the world, which I mean you generally see that in every game you'll ever play anyway. But that's one of the downsides is that you do have exact copies of houses, but if you didn't use prefabs, trying to create an individual house for every single house in a world like ours would just be, it would just
monstrous.
be yeah, an insane amount of time you would need. And so you have to be a little bit smart about your development time and use stuff like prefabs. And even though you do get some repetition, uh, the trade off is definitely worth it. And
Yeah,
most
exactly.
houses, yeah, most houses we have in the game, you'll see that there's usually anywhere from like 3 to 5 different variations of it. So 3 to 5 different prefabs for each house to give it a little bit more variety. And we expand those over time. But
Like even for this house, this is one exterior model, an interior model, and we've got I don't know how many different ones we have, which we can always make more of them. It's not hard to make a prefab. It just takes a bit of time to do. To actually get the level of detail that we want in the game, it does take a bit of time to actually place all the different assets in there. So this is just an example how we kind of switch up some of the houses and reuse our assets. So this is basically just a flipped model of the same house, but when you go in it, it feels different because everything's, you know, flipped basically. As you can
yeah,
see, this one's slightly different. It's got different things on it. There's one with a porch as well, so there's all sorts of different add-ons that we put on it, just so that we can reuse stuff and also make it just slightly different because modeling one of these does take quite a long time for our artists to do. And that's the same in any
yeah.
game, really.
Somebody was asking about procedural prefabs. There is some, I think, some very preliminary support that Crytek has added. We don't use it at all. And we would have to be very careful about that. And it would probably only alter, kind of small things in a house, like stuff on top of tables and chairs and stuff, if we ever did go that route. The reason for that is if you log out in a house and log back in, we need to make sure all the big items in a house are in the same location so you don't appear inside a fridge or a cabinet or something and get stuck. And so I doubt we would do, real procedural prefabs just because of that reason.
Yeah, exactly. Let me see if I can find some. Here we go, straight tapered. I'm just going to make a sidewalk for my little street that I was just constructing here. This is another quite powerful tool. I'll delete it again and I'll show you how it's done. It's called a spline distributor, and this is how we kind of quickly make street pavements in the game as well. So literally there's this really nice tool in CryEngine we use. It's called a spline distributor. We literally just create a line, and we use this for fences as well, so we can easily make up a whole area using this tool. And then I'll just grab the model location for that and paste it into here, and it's already made me a street with the sidewalk and everything, which is really cool. It might seem a bit boring to you guys, but yeah, I think that's a nice little handy feature that we've got.
Yeah, all those little tools are very nice. As far as for the world, what's the current we have about a third of the map that's currently essentially finished. I mean, we're always going back and adjusting it and tweaking it and so on to make it look nicer. And we're always optimize assets as well. We did a lot of work recently on the trees in the game, for example.
Yeah.
But out of the areas that are currently done, what's your favorite area? I mean, what have you
Oh,
liked working on the most so far?
oh my gosh. I'm not entirely sure what my favorite area is. I think probably one of the most interesting ones, the most unique ones, was the military base because it was so different from everything else. Um, but that's not my favorite area on the map exactly. My favorite area is not actually my own work. It's what Chris made. Um, I think the area in Pinecrest with this little neighborhood is really nice. I actually we renamed this little semicircle here, or this little circle, as Grove Street. If you watched my stream last night, I quite like this area. Yeah, quite a lot. Oh, there's a bug there.
Yeah, yeah, there's definitely some of these. You can definitely tell the areas of the game that we've spent more time on. Well, I say we, I mean Chris and Marco have spent more time on because they're doing an excellent job to make some of these things look really realistic, in my opinion. I mean, they just look absolutely amazing. And there's some forest areas I really love to run around in because just the amount of detail in the forest areas as well. And
Yeah,
so some of these areas just look absolutely terrific. And there's other areas of the map. If you get clear over on the east side, like the Brightmoor, which is past Pinecrest, some of those areas we're obviously doing work on still, and so they just don't look as nice yet. But we're definitely spending time, going back and improving areas over time as well.
yeah. I've been doing some work on this area quite recently. I've been looking into how we can boost the look of distant terrain. So I've been taking some satellite pictures from
And that was
Google.
the racetrack right there that he just zoomed past. If you want to know where it's at,
Oh yeah, yeah.
from when we did our quad races.
Yeah. Yeah, because Terry messaged me one day and he said, "Do you think we could build a racetrack so we can test the quads on?" I was like, "Sure, why not?" And so I spent a whole day working on this track, which is it was pretty neat. And the great thing about the road tool as well, I think the road tool is by far, I don't know why, but is my favorite tool because it's easy to like manipulate the ground, and they also offer like this angle system, so you can bend it on an angle. So we have like this berm here for like the quads. It was really fun actually driving on it with I don't know how many people did we have in that? We had like
We had 10 racers.
yeah,
There
10
were there were
races.
yeah, there were 13 of us. I was kind of officiating, which didn't do a lot of good because everybody just killed each other half the time. But yeah, there were 10 racers and kind of three of us just kind of there.
Yeah, that was great fun. Yeah, what I was saying, I was trying to boost the quality of the distant terrain to make it look less splotchy and like with the fields and everything. I haven't actually showed you this, Terry, I don't think. And he just started doing it.
Yeah. So one of the things we're trying to do in the map, and I'll ask Marco here in a few minutes about some future ideas he has, but one of the things we want to do is kind of add different things around the map. So visually, different areas have different things to go see. We don't want it to just be all flat terrain, essentially, with little towns here and there. And so we're trying to add unique points of interest around. So as you move around the map, there's always something new that you can go see or go experience, rather than just towns and grass, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, one of my main inspirations for the map, which is kind of odd for a survival game, is actually the Elder Scrolls series, and it's not the look and the artistic style of that game. It's just the fact how they can make their map so interesting. Like you'll go around one corner and you'll stumble upon a new settlement, or you'll stumble upon a cave or something, and that's probably one of my. I always have it at the back of my mind, trying to make each area feel as unique as possible, so you kind of instantly know where you are. That's how I sort of see it. So like these Roman hills probably look different to like the hills over there. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'll let you talk,
The,
Terry.
The last dev talk we did was on caves and vehicles. And if you go back and listen to that, there's a recording of it on our YouTube channel. We talk a little bit about the caves as just another thing in the game that you can go do and experience that's completely different, from the top of the map. And real caves are something that I'm not aware of any other survival games can do yet. And by that I mean actually cutting a hole in the ground and going underneath the ground. All the ones out right now, what they do is they just pile rocks up over your head and call it a cave. But in CryEngine, you can actually cut a hole in the terrain. I demo it. You can actually cut a hole in the terrain and go underneath the terrain in some of our cave systems as well. So they are real actual caves in this game. And we'll be adding more of those over time. Uh, I think the plan is to eventually add sewer systems in the big cities and so on. And once we get up there,
Yeah. I'm definitely thinking of the next area that I'm working on, which is actually more in the center of the map. Definitely adding like a larger cave system there, different caverns and openings and things, and using a lot more water because I know you guys like the water effects in the game, which is really cool. Which is really great about CryEngines that the water looks fairly realistic, and the physics that it uses as well is just phenomenal, really. And yeah, I'd love to play around with water a bit more for cave systems and things. I think the latest cave that we had, it was Alex who made it, is actually like you have to actually go in through water to get into it, which is kind of cool. But definitely going to play
okay,
around with that a bit more.
yeah, yeah, caves. We want to just have a lot of diversity in the world as time goes on, and just different things for you guys to experience as players of the game. So you're not kind of bored visually with just the same running across an empty field with a few trees around, constantly type of an idea. So a lot more stuff along those lines.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just as a little side note, I do agree, Luke, with the physics system. I've seen a few people mention the physics system. The physics system in CryEngine, in my opinion, is just amazing. We have a lot of fun with it, and that's why we did physicalize items. As you drop an item, you'll see it roll and bounce and float down the streams and all those type of fun things. There are some early videos of some of the streamers that would build plywood and stand on plywood on a hillside, and they would skate down the hills. You can shoot players in the river, and their dead bodies will float down the rivers, and drop flashlights in the rivers at night, and they move down, and all those type of fun things with the physics system is really fun as well.
Yeah, I was just showing a truck just trying to float down the stream. I don't know what else we could use to actually demonstrate that. But yeah, like the rivers actually have current, which is which I find kind of fascinating that everyone picked up on that when the game first came out. A lot of people were amazed, like they jumped in the river and like, oh my God, there's a current, and dropping items and watching dead bodies float down it. I don't know why people found that fascinating, but
It's just because other games don't do it, especially if you come from the world of Daisy and some of those type of games. They don't support anything even close to this yet. So that's another advantage using CryEngine. CryEngine has a lot of really fun features to play with.
yeah, exactly. I love playing with them. There's a lot of toys to play with. It's like a toy box basically. My job is just it's like Legos. I don't know how to
Right.
explain it.
So
Yeah,
so
go on.
right now we have about a third of the map. I'm calling it finished, even though it's playable, even though it isn't quite finished.
No.
Kind of the lower third of the map. What are plans that you and Chris want to add as far as for future cities, future areas, anything specific you want to, or just in general you want to talk about that you would like to see?
Uh, what I'd definitely like to see is probably something more of a larger radiation zone because we do have radiation in the game, but I want to incorporate that on like the surface level. I know there's like caves and things that include radiation, but I want radiation areas. So you'll have to essentially gear up or get anti-rad pills to explore and go beyond the other side of the map for better loot and all sorts. So there's more longevity in exploring, if you get what I mean. That's what I'd like to see.
All right. What
Uh,
about towns and cities and
there's also definitely a larger city sort of area. We I have actually blocked out. a long time ago, like a highway system with like an airport and a big road map for a city. I'm not going to show you that now because it's very rough, but that's definitely something more north to the map. So there's some big surprises coming for that, and literally just expanding on what we've got because I think what we've got is just crazy, really, just phenomenal.
Right.
Yeah.
What about, we have caves and, obviously the towns that we have right now. Are there any other points of interest you've thought about? These kind of little visual areas you'd like to see, like camping grounds or, kind of anything like that that you've kind of brainstormed that you would like to see, or?
Well, we already have like camping grounds dotted about because we wanted to kind of give you kind of a story of like the people who were here and who probably passed on or moved on. Uh, so there's a lot of like kind of camping grounds for survivors who have been there and that you can loot as well. But I'd like to see more like visual points in the map so you understand where you are. Like we've kind of used it with the water towers. I feel they're kind of a bit overused, so I was kind of blocking out this bit at the top here, which I'd like to have like radio towers, but I want it to be contrasting against the environments of very bright colors and things. So you'll be walking down the street and be like, oh, I know where I am. There's that radio tower, and there's that water tower. There's the civilization that way. And I know people have been asking for like a magical map, like press M to see where you are. Personally, I hate the idea. I know that's something that someone would want in the game just so they can figure out where they're going, group up with their friends. But the point of like a survival situation, I don't know if anybody's watched Bear Grylls Man vs. Wild. He's kind of like dumped in the middle of nowhere, and he kind of uses the way of the land to figure out where he's going. So like towards the bottom of the hills and valleys, you'll find rivers. Follow the river, you'll find civilization. Or stick to the roads and be safe. And yeah, so that's the kind of sense that I'm trying to give off in this map. It's like
Right.
self-discovery, basically.
Right, that's perfect. And somebody said in Twitch chat, landmarks, points of interest, landmarks. Those are the type of things that we do want to have around the map. And Marcus said right now we use water towers for some of those as well. Just so when you do spawn in, a lot of times you can look around and try to find landmarks you've seen before and get a general idea of where you're at.
The
And
observatory.
yeah, and that kind of comes back to my what I mentioned earlier, where we do want to have different parts of the map visually look different somehow. And so you can say, hey, I spawned in, there's this funky looking little monument thing on the beach, where am I at? Type of a thing. And you can ask your friends, if you're playing with them. And it doesn't take too long to learn the map to be, in my opinion, but, everybody has a different play style. When I play these type of games, I love to log into a game and have no clue where I'm at. But that's just my play style. I like to run around and explore and have fun and try to figure stuff out on my own. Where some people, they don't want to go through that much work or effort, so to speak, and they would like to log in and just have a map and say, okay, here's where I'm at, that's where I'm going, I'm going to beeline right there and get there instantly. And so everybody's kind of different on their play style. You know,
Yeah.
one of the things I will say is, so Marco and Chris are working on the world, and what's really fun for me is there will be times I join the game and I honestly don't know where I'm at in the world because they've added new spawn points and new areas that I even haven't seen. And so I'll log in. It's like I don't even know where I'm at, and I'm like, "Oh, this is cool because I haven't seen this area." And I'll be running through the forest and see some little point of interest they put there that I've never seen before. And so, I love that type of stuff.
Yeah. I wish I could like erase my memory sometimes and like not know where I'm going because I'd love to like explore this place, to be honest, and be a fresh spawner and not know where I'm going. But working on it for about, I think it's just over a year now. I've been with you now. Um, I literally know where everything is down to like a single rock, which is kind of crazy. Uh, yeah, I like those kind of games where you have to kind of discover and learn. And yeah, I know some people don't like it, but I think what we can do to help improve that is actually have, because I know Graham, one of our artists, he gets lost quite a lot, and he keeps saying, "Oh, the map's got too bloody big now, and I don't know where I'm going. It's like something like road signs and signposts that point you towards towns. I think is something that we can definitely improve on for navigation.
Yeah,
Because
that's a good point.
yeah,
We have had several people ask for more road signs and street signs as well, and those are definitely on our list to add. Is just to kind of help people navigate around. So if you want to run down the roads, you can find road signs, and they'll give you the locations of other towns and cities around you. And that will help a lot, and we do plan on adding those. But so when we talk about maps, we want to add more of kind of the in-game maps. Like you'll see that we already have some bus stops with maps on
yeah,
the bus stops.
we have
Those
like
are the type of things we want to add is a lot more of those in-game type of maps and with road signs and everything. So once you're in the game, you can navigate around and learn the world.
yeah, we have like a couple of these maps. And this one's kind of painted a little bit to kind of give you an indication where you are. And
Yeah.
that's what I like is like you'll probably like find a piece of a map or you'll find a sign that shows a map to kind of gather your bearings and know exactly where you are and try and meet up with your friends that way.
Yeah. So, those type of things, when people are asking about road signs, yeah, we definitely want to do all that type of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
definitely.
sure. Yeah, exactly.
So somebody's asking about the size of the map. With CryEngine 8x8, 8 kilometers by 8 kilometers, so 64 individual square kilometers is the size of the map. That's really the biggest we can do with CryEngine, and even then we're kind of pushing it because you get little floating point issues and rounding issues in the math because there's a lot of optimizations that go into this. And so that's about the limit that we can realistically do. However, we do want to have different maps in the future. So you'll be able to play on this island map or a completely different looking map. And way down the road, we've talked about linking maps together as well. And so you can go from one world, one map to another map somehow. We don't know how that'll be, possibly if we do that. But,
Yeah,
you know, I think what you'll see is completely different styles of maps over time rather than a massive map.
yeah. It's maybe a snow map one day.
Yeah. Can you go? Can you go up and show the theater area just because that's kind of a completely different look and point of interest as well for
Yeah,
people who
sure.
haven't seen the theater, the
Well,
cinema.
get away from the monument that you built.
Yeah, I modeled that after Montserrat in Spain. If anybody is familiar with it, they have a stairway to heaven that's up there at an old monastery.
I quite like this area. It's kind of neglected by players though. It's beautiful. Yeah, I mean like unique locations like this also kind of gives you a good indication of where you are, which is really nice. Uh, the mountains in the back there aren't in the game yet. I've just been working on them today actually, because that's kind of like the new area that I'm doing over that side.
Okay. Yeah. So go up to the front and show them looking back
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can do
on the
that.
cinema. Yeah. This stream obviously is talking about the world design. There's a lot of stuff from a game design perspective that we want to add and change. Uh, so when people say, yeah, right now it's just a PvP game, that's pretty much true right now. That we have a lot of stuff we want to do with the actual game itself that we'll definitely mix that up, and it won't be just a pure PvP game. There'll be other stuff to do in the future as well. But we don't want to get that into that yet in this stream.
I think this is probably one of our strongest aspects about this game is the world and how it feels and how it looks. It's just completely spot on, and I'm glad that most of you agree on that as well, because you spend so long on actually making something, and then you I don't know, you kind of get tunnel vision a bit, and then when someone comments on it and says such nice things about it, it's just I don't know, it takes me back a little bit, and like I don't know what to say. It's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, this is just another example of like a point of interest we've made, just to kind of visually mix up the map. So if you're running down the road and you say, "Hey, I see this outdoor cinema or movie theater sign," and your friend says, "Oh, I know where that's at," you kind of use the landmarks to hook up with each other.
Yeah,
And so hopefully we'll have a lot of these as the world progresses and the top part of the map gets expanded and worked on, we'll have a lot more of these, your unique looking areas that only are on one spot on the entire map to really help with that.
Yeah, there's quite a few of these kind of unique looking areas around the map already. Like, but I say like this cinema is probably the most unique one
Yeah, I
for
really
sure.
love the sign and everything. That I think I don't want to call it. I think Matt did the sign. I'm not sure on that,
Yeah, it was
but
Matt who did all the assets for this one. He did the
yeah,
sign.
and so I love stuff like that where it's so unique looking and just visually just adds a new element to the game. Yeah, there are rivers in the game as you've seen as well with current. So these are real rivers. There's real lakes. So you can actually swim in the lakes. You can swim in the rivers, all that type of stuff as well. And as time goes on, we'll probably do more stuff with underwater. We won't go too nuts with it, but we'll probably add a little bit more to the underwater system in the game as well. Just to make things fun is kind of the purpose.
Yeah. You can really see how dense some of our forests are, especially when you're like flying up like this. I know a lot of you don't get the opportunity to look, like look down on the world, but I spend most of my days looking down on here. But you can see
Yeah.
the amount of like we said before, the amount of detail that CryEngine actually allows us to pull out. Like you can see how many trees are just loaded into this one scene. It's just completely crazy.
Yeah. Somebody's asking like fish in the river. There are some fish pools in the rivers. It's just purely just for fun, for visual effect. But there are some fish spots around as well where you can see fish. And there's a lot of little critters in the game. There's rats,
Ah,
there's
yeah, I
fish,
can.
there's squirrels. I mean, there's what, maybe six or eight. There's birds, there's eagles, there's two or three types of birds, and most of those, or I think almost all those, are kind of like stock assets that we're just kind of leveraging. But they do add more. It makes the world seem more alive when you
Yeah.
run into stuff like that.
Yeah, I've got a. There's an option in CryEngine for me. So we've kind of compiled like all the birds and things and set up their parameters, and we've saved those parameters. So I can literally just drag in, say I want frogs in this area. I got like 12-meter radius of frogs, and hopefully they'll spawn in. No, those frogs probably don't want to show up today. But yeah, yeah, like
Yeah,
birds and frogs and rats and snakes. If you ever seen snakes,
yeah. I think there's only one spot in the map that snakes, that I'm aware of. But
there's a couple.
uh, okay, there's a couple. So yeah, I only know of one, so that's great. Somebody's asking about what's the deal with powering up the caves and military bases. It's really just our first uh, test or example of where we want to have things that the players can interact in the environment. There's a lot we want to do with these type of systems in the future, but right now we put it in as kind of a test where you can go in and turn the lights on, using a generator in the cave and like the military area. And there's also one at the racetrack as well, where if it's nighttime, you can power up the lights around the racetrack and race around the racetrack at night with the lights on as well. But the reason they're there is just it was, it's a little bit of a fun thing to do. It doesn't really serve any purpose besides just turn the lights on right now. But it was just getting an experience in the game, and then we can take that system and greatly expand it, especially when we go into base building. We want to be able to power different types of stuff. But so you'll see those in the world as well. We'll probably have some static ones, but
Yeah, they're really easy to set up for us as well, which is really great. Like we literally just link up lights. I think it can show you in the military base. So the generator's there, and you can see all these green lines that are like sprouting off it. And these are all the individual lights which literally turn on and off. And the great thing about using this engine is just, the amount of dynamic lights and things that you can have in the scene. But I mean, like lighting up an area in this game because it's supposed to be a post-apocalyptic game. There's no electricity, so stuff like the generators and things, really add uh, kind of like life into the environment, which I quite like. Yeah. Um, but yeah.
yeah. So just quickly, I'm going to answer a couple of questions. Some of these are related to world design as well.
Okay.
So as far as for sounds in the game, right now the sounds we have in, I consider them kind of the essential sounds. We have a few environmental sounds and a few things like that, but we do want to do a lot more with sound in the future as well. Uh, in fact, somebody was playing earlier today on a test level we have, and they're like, "Hey, I hear this cave sound," and I'm like, "Yeah, we have like a cave ambiance sound that actually has reverb built into it." So as you're running through it, you hear the footstep echoes, you hear all the echoes from the gunshots and all that type of stuff. And some of that stuff we just don't have in the game yet, just because we haven't gotten to it. But we will definitely have a lot more sound environments. When you walk in a house, the sound will get quieter from the rain outside. All those type of things. As far as the world design, we'll hook up at some point. We just haven't gotten there yet. Mainly just because of our team size. It's always a challenge for us. We have to prioritize both features on what we can do because we just, we don't have dozens of full-time employees that we can throw on different tasks. There's just, we're a small team and we just kind of have to prioritize and do what we can.
Yeah, he's completely right about that. I mean, there's only two level designers building such a massive world, and I hope you guys kind of appreciate like the accomplishment like we've done because it's truly massive, and I don't think you realize about how many different pieces go into like just a small area, like even this area, like all the different decals and roads, the grass, the trees, or even this cliff, they're all made up of all individual rocks and things. Like I can, if I hold down the space bar, that shows you all the different placed objects, which is just in this one area, and you can see it's just full, completely, which is absolutely nuts, I think. So yeah, we literally just, I don't know, I don't sleep anymore. We were all of us, we don't sleep. I don't think we do. Yeah, we're just constantly trying to improve on what we've got, and we have to work probably 10 times harder than in any other studio, but just because how small we are, just to try and impress you guys. And I think it's just a labor of love, really, because we all love what we're doing. We all love the game. We really want to make it something that we all enjoy as well, and hopefully that you enjoy as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. So we're about an hour now. If you have any questions about the actual world design, feel free to ask those quickly, and we'll answer those, and then we'll go ahead and terminate the stream. So yeah, anything about worlds, let us know. And if you have other questions, I'm sure some of the other developers in chat will ask them as well.
How many members are on the team? There's about 20 of us, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah, there's about that. If you count kind of the external people, the sound team and stuff like that, it's pretty close to that.
Someone asks, I'm a level designer, any positions available? You can email me directly for those. Shall I can post my email in chat, couldn't I? I don't know if I
Yeah,
want
that's
to.
fine. Yeah, go for it. I post mine everywhere, but I kind of need to out of necessity. But
So I'll just type my email in chat.
yeah. So I'll answer a couple of the other questions really fast here. So as far as for dog mutants and stuff, there's a lot of stuff we want to do with AI, and we'll get into this in another stream. Uh, right now, we're waiting for some improvements to the AI system so we can have more AI in the game. So we will definitely be adding a lot more AI. But let me kind of point out also, this isn't a zombie horde style game. It was never meant to be a zombie horde style game. And so you'll never, we don't plan on adding big hordes because that just isn't the original design. What we want to do instead is add groups of mutants and groups of bandits. So like the bandits will be smarter than the mutants, more like human AI level. And they'll be more dangerous than just this wandering horde of zombies type of an idea. And so there'll be less AI in the game, but there'll be harder AI if that makes sense. And so some of those might be more like encounter based where you can't kill one by yourself. Just give more reasons to team up, and a lot of that will be figured out in the future. But as far as for AI, that's where we want to get to, and that's why you won't see massive wandering hordes. It doesn't fit our world. Ours is a mutant world, not a zombie world. Let me see if I missed anything else here. Flow graphs. We don't really do hardly anything with flow graphs in the game. It's
It's all
we
you,
use
isn't
flow
it?
graph.
Yeah.
Yeah, we use FlowGraph for like the main menu interactions and stuff like that, but none of the AI or anything is done with flow graphs. It's all code, and yeah, flow graph is almost non-existent for our type of game. The other type of games that make a lot of sense, but not for ours. Let's see here. I'm just going to glance really quick, and then we can terminate.
What environment effects are there in CryEngine? Snow, wind, rain, etc. Oh, I could show you. Hopefully, I can show you. Uh, I actually just started setting up some wind on the coast. You see these like looking tornado icons? That's actually wind. So I've set them all along the coast, so wind's blowing in from the coast and affecting like some of the vegetation. It's quite low at the moment. That also affects like all the power cables and all sorts. Everything that's got physics on it, it will blow in the wind. And there's also there's something called a breeze generator. If I go here, environment, if it loads, come on, load, there we go. See, it says environment state, and there's a wind vector, breeze generation, and that's what causes all the trees to and all the grass to kind of move the way they do move, basically. And it's all random, all randomized uh, breezes as well, so you won't see the same wind movement. It's always randomized. So uh, there's about two different breezes that spawn around you at once. That's what I've got it set up currently, but we can always change that in future. Um, there are also like rain. There's a weather system that Terry programmed in. You can't see it in the editor, but there are like other things like rain. There's thunderstorms and all sorts. I can grab in a rain entity, for example.
Yeah, one thing people have asked for is to actually have it rain more often in the world, and I think we might do that because CryEngine, because of the lighting system in CryEngine, things just look amazing if it's configured right. And the rain is one of those things, and it just looks so neat in the game. Even at night, it just looks absolutely
Yeah.
spectacular. And so I think that's one of the things we'll do is bump up so it does rain more often in the world. It is based in Seattle after all, so so we can justify rain up there. That's not a problem. So I think we'll do that. Hey, somebody was asking Marco, how long does it take if you have all the assets? How long does it take you to develop a medium-sized town?
It could take probably like about a week to kind of block it out and get all the essentials in there. But if I want to go in there and put some fine details in, like grass growing in between the roads, putting the road cracks in, and trash everywhere, because we kind of focus on quite high level detailed stuff. If I wanted to make the block out, it'd be about a week, but beyond that, maybe a couple more weeks added on. It's very quick. You can literally get something out. Like I could probably spend a day and make like a small settlement or an area, and it'll be done. Or it'll look because it will look complete basically. Because I don't know, it's CryEngine's magic. It makes everything look great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up the stream then. We appreciate you guys coming by and spending time with us today and learning a little bit more about our world design and what we're doing with it and how we do it, and also some of our future plans. If you do have any questions, we do have forums that you can post on at miscreatedgame.com, and definitely follow us on Twitch and Twitter, Steam, all those type of things. We have a lot of social media sites. So whichever one you prefer, just follow us on that one or several of them. And we've been trying to be a lot more open lately as far as for what we're doing with the streams and everything like that. And so we'll keep doing these streams in the future. Focus on different aspects of the game, but definitely give us a follow on the different media sites. Anything you want to add at the end to kind of wrap up, Marco?
Uh, Not much really. I kind of just want to thank everyone who's kind of supported the game so far. Without you guys, this wouldn't be my job, basically. So the guys who bought the game, who followed, the people who streamed, our active community members, just thank you guys. It's extremely humble to, and you never get this kind of opportunity. It just lands on you, basically. I don't know. It's amazing. I couldn't be more grateful. So thanks.
Yeah, sometime in the future, I think what I want to do is do a team-oriented stream where we actually talk about the team members and their background. And I think quite a few people would be surprised about the background of the people working on the game.
Yeah,
It isn't
that's
what it
true.
isn't what you would expect, I think.
Yeah, my previous job was nothing like this. I can tell you
Yeah.
that.
So one thing that does help us is make sure you also go into Steam and leave a review for the game. Just and that always helps us as well. So I'd ask you guys just go review the game and post those on Steam for other people to read. Things you like about the game and so on. That would be beneficial.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's go ahead and wrap up the stream then. Thank you everyone for joining us and have a good day.
Yeah, thank you guys. See you later. We'll see you soon.